Well, hello. I'm glad you could join us today. It's hard to believe that we're already on our 7th episode of the 2nd season, and I have you all to thank for that. Right now, what I'm doing is painting the canvas with a thin, even coat of phthalo blue. Normally, you see me put magic white or liquid white on the canvas, but today, we're not using any of that. We're just going to put down a base layer of paint. As you can see, without the liquid white, the paint doesn't spread very easily, so you'll want to get an old brush and just really scrub this in here hard. You can see how hard I'm scrubbing here. All the bristles are bent out. That's how hard I'm scrubbing, and it's really just going to put that color into the canvas. We still don't want to leave a very big, thick layer of paint. You know, you still want to spread it out, but we do, if we scrub it in, that'll ensure that paint will stick on top of it, because it'll be almost like we have a thick paint. And we did start with a very thick paint because, you know, we need a thick paint for this technique, especially for colors that are going to be underneath more and won't be just highlights. I actually prefer a thinner paint when I'm doing things like yellows, things like that. I definitely like a thick paint when I'm doing like brown, blue, any of my dark colors, and also for the white, the colors that I usually use up on the mountains. Yeah, I've never tried a painting like this, so I hope it turns out well. It was an idea I got from watching a video online to make it look like a very dark evening scene, like the sun just went down. And I think I might try to do another cabin. You know, you all have seen me do cabins a few times on the show. And I wasn't very good at it, but the more you practice something, the better you're going to be at it. And what I'm doing here, I'm just taking some of the places where the paint was extra thick and just spreading it out. Make sure I scrub hard along the bottom too. Sometimes I'll use an easel that has like a little lip on it, and I'll have the canvas right up against it, and I'll get done with the painting and I'll have a little white spot going all the way across. Those are the paintings that I put in a frame. Cover that up. Alright, scrub across the bottom. It's going to take the first 10 minutes of the show just to get this background down, but that's all right. All right, scrub that in. And just go across and blend everything. It's still darker right here in the center, but that's okay. We're going to end up covering a lot of that up anyway. All right, now I want to do some clouds, but first I'm going to go down to our palette here and get a little bit of white paint. I'm just going to kind of scrub some white paint in. Let's see, where are we at? There we go. Just scrub some white paint in the center. I'm going to cover most of this up, but kind of blend that in. It's going to make it look like there's a little glow up in the painting. Maybe the moon's behind the clouds or something when we get done. All right. And now we're going to take our same brush that we did for the blue paint. We don't even have to wash it because we're just going to put black on it. We're just going to load our brush up with some black and just start making some cloud shapes up in the sky. These aren't very important. Just however you think a cloud would go. another layer of clouds here. Just however we want them. We have some come on down from this one. And already as we work these in, they're starting to look like clouds. We don't want to hang out in one spot too long, just kind of blend them on across. Very dark. And leave some of this light area in your sky. You don't want to cover all that up, just right through here. Yeah, I'll work it in a little bit up here. Still looks a little too much like streaks of paint, and we don't want a lot of brush marks here. And we'll just kind of lightly lift up on them, blend them in. This is a little bit harder to do without the liquid white on the canvas, but the paint will still move a little bit. See, a bit more of the black, and there we go. I think that's good for the clouds. Most of this we're going to cover up anyway, so we're not very worried about it. Just a nice little sky. That bright area looks very nice in there, so we'll want to save some of that. We don't want to cover it all up. Just to make it look like clouds. All right. The next thing we're going to do, we're just going to take a clean dry brush and blend across it. This will do the same thing we were doing before, except it's going to stop a lot of the spreading of the paint across the sky. Because we just want to kind of make it look like clouds, not really smear the clouds. All right, now the next thing I'm going to do is go back to my black paint, get a little bit of that on the brush. All right, just load it up really good. And I'm going to come along in here and just tap wherever I think some trees or something would be in the painting. We're not committed to anything yet, but just going to put that dark color back there, so there's still a lot of shadows. And that's part of the reason I made this dark blue, because blue makes an excellent color to put behind highlights. This part is, it's not very fun, but this is the most important part of your painting. If you have your highlights on top of dark, they really stand out and look very bright. And in this way you can make the basic layout of your painting, and at this point you're not really committed to anything. You can still change it if you like. It makes me happy. Sometimes when I start out doing something, I'm not very happy with it, so it makes me happy that I can change it. And maybe a little bit more along here. All right, now we're going to go back down to the palette, and I'm going to get maybe a clean brush here. So I'm going to go ahead and clean my brush a little bit because I've got black paint on them all, and I'm about to go into some yellow. And if you've ever mixed black paint with yellow paint, well, you'll know that that just creates a green color, and that's not what we want right now. All right, so we're going back down to the palette, and we'll start by getting a little bit of yellow ochre, maybe mixed with a little cad yellow. Just going to mix them together on the brush, maybe a little bit of the Indian yellow color. We're just going to mix it all together and just tap, just lightly tap. And we really want to load up these bristles with paint. All right. I'll go back up and we'll start at the top of the trees and just highlight them where we think there would be highlights. You want to keep a lot of paint on your brush. And if you have trouble getting this to stick, then use some paint thinner on it. Yeah, I think I'm going to go for more of that Indian yellow, maybe mix in a little red, and mix it all together. Let's see, maybe it makes more of an orange color. You can do these however you want, but don't just go and put in random splotches. Just think of how a tree would be shaped. These are still way off in the distance, so there won't be very much detail. I think I'm going to go with a smaller brush too. And get more of the yellow ochre color. And you want to leave some of these dark areas back here because like I said before, that's what's going to make your highlight show up. Painting is, it's really more about contrasting dark and light than it is about the colors you use. You can use almost any color you like on this painting. And let's see, maybe a bit right here. Sometimes towards the top of the trees, I like to turn the brush sideways, but then as I come down, I like to turn it, yeah, at the top I like to turn it this way, but then when I come down, I like to turn it horizontal, so I can let it look like they're kind of hanging down when they get lower. All right. And just vary the color up on these a little bit. Some of them can look more green. Just want this to kind of look like a fall scene. And just remember to leave some of the dark area. We need these shadows in here. All right. Now before we go on, I'm going to go back down to the palette here for a second. I'm going to get some of the liquid white and put it out on the palette. Maybe mix it up with a little bit of brown. And this is very thin. It's perfect for making tree branches. So we're going to go back up to the trees and just wherever you think branches would be. Let's just put them in there. Just put them in. We're going to end up covering most of these up, so they're not very important. But you still want to keep them in the basic shape you think branches would be. As I'm coming down with this brush, I'm kind of spinning it to let the paint off. And the reason I've mixed this with liquid white is to make it so it's very thin. You need a very thin paint to be able to do this, because the thin paint will stick to a thick paint. It's one of the most important rules when you're doing this style of painting. And you can just put these wherever you think they would be. It's not very important, and we're going to come back with more highlight colors in a minute. We'll probably cover most of these up. A bit more color on that one. There, we got another big tree back here. Ooh, that's a bright one. That's gonna look nice. All right. Now we're gonna go back to our palette again and start picking up some of the highlight colors. We're going to go back and put some branches. We don't want to cover all this up, but we don't want it to look like the tree trunks and branches and things we painted in. We don't want it to look like they're floating in the air. So we definitely do want to cover some of them up, especially around the base. You don't want the base of these to just be floating. So maybe we'll put some bushes around them, something like that. And remember, all these are separate bushes. It may look like we're just dabbing on a bunch, but we do all these one at a time. That way we can make sure that that they stay distinct, and we want to make sure we keep some of this dark area between them, because that's very important to us. Can't stress that enough. The dark area is more important than the highlights. All right, maybe more up here. I feel like maybe it should be a little taller up here. Maybe a little bit more tree. There we go. All right, next I'm going to go back down to the canvas and just take some of that same yellow ochre color on my brush. I'm using a very soft bristled brush. I'm just going to load it up with paint. And we're just going to start coming along and making this look like a grassy field. The more we tap this, the more it's just going to look grassy, more soft. And while we're doing this is a good time to kind of figure out how we want the land to look. And you can change up the different colors in it, add a little green, add a little orange. But we can make the basic shapes here, like if maybe there's a little rolling hill through here. We want to make sure we don't pull this across, or else it'll be like a streak. We're just lightly tapping. And as we come forward in painting, we want more of this dark area to show through. Because things are always darker in value as they get closer to you or further up from the horizon. And things are always lightest towards wherever the horizon is going to be in your painting. And as I said before, the more you tap this, the softer it's going to look. Oh, sometimes I repeat things a lot, but if I repeat it a lot, it's important for you to remember. You know, you may have noticed that today I'm wearing a beanie. This is a beanie that my sponsor gave to us, and the great thing about it is if I get out of bed and my hair won't lay down, I can just wear this beanie and nobody will be able to tell that it looks like this. Plus, I like it. All right. I'm just going to continue tapping here. Maybe I'll get some of that orange color I had earlier. Mixing a little bit of the red in. Use that to make some of this grass. Ooh, it's a very bright color. I'll mix some of that up here, just wherever. And as you tap this, it's going to blend in with the color underneath. This looks like a lot of the places I used to see when I lived in Georgia. You know, whole places where there's farmland that's kind of grown up and trees are starting to come back around it. I love places like this. I once had a house where the backyard looked kind of like this when I was younger. Alright, go back down, get a little bit more of that color. And remember, as I said before, we want to make sure we leave some of this dark area as we get closer. And you want to load lots of paint onto your brush. Continue to tap this, make it look softer. You can just tap it till it looks grassy and soft, like someplace you want to take your shoes off and run across. It's a nice change from the bushes that we usually do. You know, most of the paintings we do, I wouldn't take my shoes off and run through those places, even if you paid me. And as you're tapping, you can change up the angle a little bit to help set the lay of the land. You can do it with the change of colors too. Maybe there's a little hill that comes down here. Grass gets a little bit lower. Very gently tap it. And remember to fill in this area at the bottom, like I was talking about earlier. If you don't go down to the bottom of your canvas, when you hang it up on the wall, it's going to look kind of suspicious because you got a lot of weird empty places down there where you can see the background color through. We don't want that. All right. I think the next thing we're going to do is maybe take our palette knife and we're going to get a little brown on it. Actually, before we do that, let's go back up to the canvas. I want to put in a tree. So I'm going to load up some brown, some black. It's a big tree right down through here. Maybe another tree right here. Yeah, there he is. I'm going to kind of get wider at the bottom. All right. And we're going to go back to our script liner brush and thin some of that paint out. Just a little paint thinner. And we're just going to make some branches that go off this tree. where we think they would go. Maybe up there. And some people like to do these from the top and go down. Some people like to go out with them. Just do it however it's comfortable for you. Maybe this one, put some more color. My bad thing about these nice big trees here is that sometimes we end up covering up some of the nice stuff we've done in the background. But it makes it look more natural. All right, maybe a branch that goes off the canvas there. I always like it when things go off the edge. All right, a little bit more out here. Okay. Now we're going to go back down to our palette, get some of that same color that we did the trees in the background with, some of the yellow ochre, maybe more yellows, and we're just going to start putting some tree shapes out here. We don't want to cover this all, we just want to make it look like a tree. Think about tree shapes while we do this. Kind of put them out on the end of those branches that we just made. And these trees kind of just grow together, let them bush out more, hang out more on the ends. And I'm going to come back in where we had that spot and take some of the lighter color I did in the background and just highlight this side of the tree, like maybe light shining on it. Come back through and blend that in a minute so it looks more natural. And we can just put this in with our script liner brush. It's no big deal. You could use any brush to do it. Fan brush would be nice. But I like to use a little script liner brush for highlights like this, because our light's sort of coming from this direction. I mean, it's kind of dark, so it's hard to tell. All right, a little more dark on this side. You can still see the grass through the bottom of the tree. We definitely don't want that. And maybe down at the foot of these trees, we got some little brush and things like that growing up here. Just put another one going out. All right, and now here's what I was originally planning to do with this palette knife. In this painting, we're going to try to do a house. You know, I've tried to do some things like this before, little cabins, and they don't always turn out very well. But I did see an interesting house the other day, and it was basically shaped like a triangle, I think they call them a chateau. And we're going to try to do one of those, see how it goes. Right now we're just scraping some paint off the basic outline, the shape of the house. And I'm gonna scrape all that off. You know, triangle houses always look really neat, but I don't think I'd want to live in the upstairs room. All right, now we're going to get some of that brown that we had, and we're just going to paint this in. Just follow our outline. Just really thick brown paint. And let's see, maybe start here. You got to make sure you cover that top part. This can sometimes kind of be hard to do, but it's a good way to practice using your palette knife. I can't think of a better way, really. You're pressing kind of hard, you know. Normally when we use the palette knife, we're barely going across it because we want to kind of let the paint come off, like when we want it to break when we're doing mountains, for example. You know, a lot of times on the show, I tell people that I'm not really an artist, I'm just a painter. And I think sometimes people think that I'm talking bad about artists, and that is certainly not the case at all. They do some amazing things that I wish I could do. There are a lot of really good, talented artists that do artwork I could never dream of doing. We're making this front side here. We're going to come back and highlight all this in a second so you'll be able to tell the difference. Right now it kind of looks like we're just making a big blob. And that's definitely not what we want. When we do the highlights on it, we actually will do a really light touch, just like when we're doing the snow on mountains. Kind of looks like a little tent sitting out here. All right, now that we got that done, I'm gonna take my other palette knife here. You don't necessarily have to have two. I just I keep two on hand just so I can get things done a little bit faster. But it only takes a second to wipe the knife off, so it's not really important that you do. Okay, we're gonna go back up, and what I'm doing here is just putting some highlights along these edges where I think the light would hit them. We're gonna come back and actually put some shingles and things like that on. We're gonna do that by taking a little bit of this white color. Let's see, we're gonna put it off over here to the side. Mix a little brown in it, maybe a little crimson. Oh, that's a really red color. Maybe we need some black to dull that down, because that is way too bright. Have a house with a pink roof if we keep it like that. Of course, if you want a house with a pink roof, you should paint it that way. Ooh, look, made a purple color, and I think we're gonna go with that. And we're just going to take the opposite edge of our knife that we don't normally use much, and we're going to come up here and just lay in some shingles. Just lay these down, make a little grid. And when we start to run out of paint, or it stops coming off the knife easily, just load up some more. That's why we made a pretty good little pile of it. Maybe some more right here. Be nice to live in a little triangle house out in the field underneath these big trees. You know, sometimes when I'm trying to do things like this, I get the perspective all wrong. Or, you know, it looks all crooked, like it's going sideways. But, you know, it doesn't have to be perfect. We're just painting this to make us happy. I once did a painting that had the most terrible cabin in it I could imagine. I was not happy with it. I did like the rest of the painting, but you know, when somebody came up to me one day when I was doing some live painting, and they said, "I want that painting." And I said, "Well, okay." So I sold it to him. I tried to talk him into some of the other ones I thought were better, but he said, "You know, this painting, this is exactly what I want in my life." And I'm like, "Well, I hope you enjoy it." All right, so up here, we're going to go back and scrape in a little window for our cabin. Maybe a little door. Just scraping the paint off right to the canvas. Maybe a little bit more paint there. And each time when I go and scrape part of it off, I'm going back and wiping my knife on a paper towel. Maybe another little window here. And one here. Now, I'm gonna go get some of my yellow paint. Just get a little bit of it on the knife, kind of thick. And I'm gonna go back in here, and maybe somebody's home, so I'm gonna put some yellow in here. Make it look like the light's on in the house. Might need to do this with a brush. Let me see what I got here. Yeah, that one's too big. You know, I don't have my little brush here today, so we're gonna continue on with the palette knife. This is probably the right tool for the job anyway, and I should just practice using it and get better with it. You know, these paintings we do, you can actually do the entire painting using just one brush most times, like you know, something like a 2-inch brush, something like that. All right, some more yellow in here. Another little touch of yellow. And on the spot where we scraped off all the paint, you can actually scrub kind of hard to get this color off if you need to. You don't have to worry about it too much. And if we start mixing in some of the paint that's around it, we could even just scrape it off completely. And you know, this looks really bad to me up close, but if you back away from it from a few feet, like from where you're looking at it, you know, these look all right. So sometimes when you're painting and something looks disappointing to you, just step back and take a look at it and see if it's what you want. I'm starting to get some of that purple on there, so I'm gonna go back through and do exactly what I did before. I'm gonna scrape it off. It's never too late to just scrape it off and do it again. This paint takes days to dry, so I got plenty of time to do it in. All right, a little bit more yellow. And since it looks like I went over a little bit here, I can just cover it back up with brown. Well, that's a good way to make it back square. And we'll do the same for all of them. Actually, that one needs a little bit more yellow on it. You know, it's these little details that really make your painting interesting. So when you're at home and you have time, take time to work on this. Put in these details. On the show here, we only have about 55 minutes to do each painting. Which, you know, I don't usually spend too much longer than that on paintings at home, but if you need the time, you got it. Don't feel like you have to do your painting in just a few minutes. All right, now we got to decide what color we want the door. I think we'll make the door that same purple color that we made the shingles. So and the last thing we're going to do, well, a couple of more things we're going to do to this cabin. All right, first we're going to take some of the liquid white. I'm going to put it out on the palette. Just right here, spread it out. All right, wipe off our knife. You always want to clean your knife every time you do something with it. And we're just going to get a little bit of that liquid white on the side of the knife and come back up and just put some highlights here around our door. This doesn't have to be very bright. In fact, you probably don't want it very bright. And if you feel like it's too much, just go back and scrub over until it just blends in. That one's probably still a little too bright. All right, we're going to come along here and just cut off the bottom, make everything all even down there, and then I'm gonna thin out some of the black using paint thinner. As you can see, I just take it out with my palette knife, put it on the palette, thin it down until it's about the consistency of liquid white. Once again, wipe off my knife, and we're just gonna get a little cut of it too. And we'll go back up to our canvas and maybe just put a little cross tie here on these windows. You know, sometimes I go back and do things like this and I wish I'd just left it alone, but we got to do these things so we learn how to do them, so they'll be better the next time we try. All right. Now I'm going to go back to my 1-inch brush and get some of these colors that we use for the grass, and we want to make it look like some of this grass has grown up over the edge of the house. Maybe we have a little bush that's out here beside it. A bit over here, and we'll just keep tapping that until it's very soft. And I think if we're going to have a house like this, maybe we need a little path. So I'm going to get some brown and black mixed together and just start back here, right at his door. And I'm just going to rock the brush back and forth and just kind of make a path that comes out this way. Just back and forth, back and forth. You want to make it look like it's kind of sitting down in a little valley, because most paths are, because we beat down the dirt on them. And just let this get narrow and more narrow as it goes away from you. And again, we'll just start tapping some grass in certain places. kind of looks nice. Maybe we got a big clump of bushes right here. I'm just using that same color I used on the grass. Alright, and we're going to go back to our palette knife, and I think if I lived here, I'd probably put maybe a little fence along here, so I'm going to go ahead and just get some brown and black mixed together, just like we did before. Just mix them with our palette knife. You don't have to really get this mixed together good. In fact, it's nice if different colors show up in it. So I'm going to just get a little cut of the brown and black. I'm just going to come wherever I think a fence post would be, and I'm just going to put it in. Maybe another one here. It's an old broken down fence. It's more decorative, never was meant to hold anything in. Maybe it used to hold in some horses. Maybe here on the other side. Kind of have one that's leaning in, about to fall down. Right here in this bush we just painted, maybe it's starting to get grown up. This guy hates to cut the grass just as much as I do, it looks like. You know, when you're putting these in, if you'd like, you can kind of do a little curving motion as you put it in to make it, give it the what would you say, the illusion of death, like maybe it's going around. Little cylinders. All right. And we're going to go back into some of that black, that really thin black we made, and just make some little indications of some wire, fence posts going across. Maybe some barbed wire. Used to hate that stuff. Back where I lived in Georgia when I was little, there were farms all around, and there was barbed wire all over the place. You'd even find it out in the woods, just with trees and stuff growing up around it, from where they used to have farms back in the 1800s. It got abandoned. All right. Now I think this painting is kind of missing some stuff on this side, and we have a few more minutes. So I think I'd like to go back in and put in some more bushes. And to do that, we're just gonna go back into our black, little blue, very dark color, and just put in another clump out here, however we think they would go. And once we have in that dark undercolor, we can go back and get some of the other colors. Orange, a little bit of the crimson. And we'll start highlighting this bush from the top. You always want to start at the top, because things should get darker as you go down. I mean, you can decide where each little tuft of the bush is and start again, but you always want to come down and leave some of this darker area underneath. That's what's going to make it look like a bush instead of a bunch of paint just splashed on the canvas. People wonder how you did it. And down here at the base of the bush, we'll just tap it in, make it look like grass again. There's some other little things going on down in here. We'll go ahead and the places in the background here. We can maybe scratch in some little trees and things. And normally, you know, this is going to be like white underneath, but where I've got this blue, it's showing up here. Let's see. As I said, I told you maybe in the previous episodes, I'm now switching the camera myself, so if you ever see a mistake like I just made, well, it's because I did it. All right, I'm going to scratch in some of these places, maybe a couple over here. It's kind of strange that they're bright blue, but I like it. I like it a lot. Some little sticks sticking up here and there. I don't know if you can see that very well on your screen, but these little blue places are showing up really bright. Adds a lot of interest to the painting. All right, we're going to come back through. I'm going to get some of the yellows and things like that, and maybe put some little tufts of grass and bushes and things around the bottom where these fence are. Maybe make a little shadow there from some of the light in the back shining on them. You know, I've also got my little TV monitor over here, so I can see when we're switching. So if you see me looking over there, it's because I can see what you're going to see. That really helps me out a lot, because it's nice to know what you all are going to be seeing while you're watching the video. And sometimes it can help me notice things I didn't notice before. Like I felt like maybe there needed to be a little more light in some of these places up in the trees. Maybe they weren't highlighted enough. And you know, with that, I think we're going to call this a finished painting. I'm going to come in and put a few things down here. And I really hope you learned a lot from this painting today. If you regularly watch the show, you know, feel free to contact me and let me know anything you'd like to see. I'll try to put it in future episodes. If there's anything I can do, or if I can't answer your question, I'm sure we can find somebody that can and get them in here on the show. And you know, if you have anything you'd like us to show on the show, just you know, drop us a line, send us the artwork. We could get it up here sometime. And for our next painting, we're going to do something very interesting. We're going to do a study in value. And what value is, it's how dark or light a shade of color is. So we're just going to use 3 colors. I'm going to use orange, black, and white. And we're going to make a full painting using only those colors. And doing things like that, it's very interesting, because you learn how to use different value to make a painting look interesting instead of different colors. So then when you go back to doing more colors, it's very easy to make the painting look interesting. So stay tuned for that. And as always, you can email me at thesalempainter@gmail.com, or you can go to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thesalempainter. Well, thank you, and we'll see you next time.